There we go. Can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear us okay?
Yes, I can hear you now. Yes.
How's it going, man?
Good. How you guys doing?
Fantastic.
Good.
Can't wait for the show. Obviously coming to Savannah, Friday, October 8th, Victory North. Great venue. I think it's going to be perfect for you guys. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Awesome. Yes.
Had a chance to run into you. Welcome to Rockville. I think we were figuring it out. It was like 2016. The year I think your set got rained out.
Yeah.
But still got to chat it up with you guys. That was a lot of fun.
I remember that. Yeah, that was we were just about ready to go on. They were chanting Fozzy and everything, and then the rain came. So tough luck for us on that day.
Yeah, but this one's good. I'm glad you guys were able to get this rescheduled because of the whole pandemic thing coming back now in October. All right, so just for starters, I mean, you got the concert tours, books, championships, podcasts, cruises, movies. I'm sure I'm leaving something out. Do you sleep at all?
You know, it's funny. Like, it's not like I'm busy, but I'm not as busy as you might think. What I do really well is time management, which is something a lot of people don't do. And if you think about my daily show plan or my daily show schedule or whatever, if you have a show at night, and that could be wrestling or Fozzy, the show doesn't start till 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. And you're usually at the building or, at the venue at 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah.
So what do you do during that time frame? You can sit around and do nothing and waste time, which a lot of people do, or you could take a little bit of that time to do some writing or to do some podcasting or whatever it may be. So yeah, I'm busy. Yeah, I have a lot of projects, but I also take a lot of time off as well. So like I said, it's just a matter of putting those pieces into the puzzle with the right amount of thought and planning going on behind it.
Hey, Chris, it's Marshall here. So obviously, let's talk about one of your latest projects, obviously with Fozzy and the music video for Sane. It was filmed in Santa Claus, Indiana at Holiday World. This thing looked like it was a too much fun experience probably for you guys. But I was just curious. I mean, with that video itself, I mean, I'm guessing you didn't nail it on one take. How many takes and how many times did you ride that damn roller coaster that day? Because
you might think it's fun at first, but I don't know if the human body is built to go on a roller coaster 6 times in a row. And that's what we had to do. And it was, you mentioned Santa Claus, Indiana. So it's one of the last and the biggest wooden roller coasters. And you might say, well, what exactly does that mean? Well, wooden is much more jolting and it moves you around a lot more. So not only do we have to deal with that, but also I have to be the singer and enunciate and get the words right and all that sort of stuff as you're going down this, huge descent in this fast wooden roller coaster, and you kind of got to look cool too. So it wasn't easy. And there's guys in the band who didn't make it through all 6 takes.
I know.
If you look very closely, you can see a couple times there's only 4 of us instead of 5. But listen, we knew that it was all that mattered was the finished product. And it wasn't the easiest and it wasn't the most fun. I might never go on a roller coaster again, but at least we got what we needed for the video. And once again, no one's ever done it before. So that's kind of one of the reasons why I was like, listen, I'm not much of a roller coaster guy, but I'll give it a shot because it is unique and different. And to be able to do that in rock and roll is always a plus. So it was worth the penance that we paid to get it done.
Now, I want to point out one member, Rich. Dude, this guy is a champ because it's obvious to look at you, Chris, during that video, and you're killing it, man. You're having such a great time. You're nailing it. Rich is into it, but there's points where he's not. Right around the 3 minute and 49 second mark, right at the end of the music video, he goes from screaming to laughing, then to it looks like closed mouth. I'm gonna vomit. Did any of the guys kind of lose it in that way on the video shoot that day?
Yeah, and like I said, you're looking at, so there was 6 takes and 2 of them we couldn't use because of technical difficulties, which really sucked because it's the proverbial, as soon as the train leaves the station, like you can't go back. And there was 2 takes where as soon as we left and started going, the music doesn't play. or the camera doesn't work. And it's like, well, this is great, except for now we have the next 3 minutes of this hell ride of just sitting there actually having to do it and not performing. Those were the ones that were hardest for me. But yeah, through those 6 takes, I mean, everybody paid the price, and there was some vomit. There's actually one scene that if we ever do the back behind the scenes where there is a trail of vomit going out into the ether. So at one point somebody said, we should put that in the video. I said, no, you had never seen, Keith and Mick throwing up in a Stones video. That's not rock and roll.
That's funny. Okay, so over the past couple of years, couple new songs, Nowhere to Run, of course, new song Sane with the video just talking about. I read somewhere that it looked like 2020 was the year we were going to get a new album. Obviously, the pandemic happens, didn't happen. Are you guys planning? Is there a timeline for a new full album for the band?
Well, much like a lot of bands, I'm assuming that because none of us could really tour, that everybody was working on new stuff. And we were laughing calling this new record Chinese Fozzocracy because it seemed like, I think Nowhere to Run, which is on this record, we recorded that in May of 2019. And it was released in the fall of 2019. The idea was, well, that'll be the first single, and then the record will come out, later on the year. I think one of the original plans was to call the record 2020, like, how it's like 1984 Van Halen, like how monumental. And then as we started going through and realizing, like, we're not going to have this done because studio closed, like everything closed, and plus, who wants to release an album when nobody can tour with it? And there was a few bands that did that. I mean, AC/DC, you'll see right behind me, they put out a great record last year, but it's AC/DC. They can do whatever they want. For us, we knew you can't put out an album if you can't tour on it. So the album is done. It's finished. It's mixed. It's mastered. It's ready to go. Now it's just a matter of waiting for the right time for it. The other thing is we're now on Sony Records, Sony Music. So it's cool because this is a major company, obviously, and their plan and their kind of new way of doing things is they base it on singles, right? So Nowhere to Run comes out. Now Sane comes out. Then the next one will come out. When the album is ready to be released, they'll release it. And we're cool with it either way, because at least now we know that they have a plan that they want to follow. So yes, the record is done. Yes, it's ready to go. And until the full thing comes out, I think there'll be a single every few months up until then.
That makes sense.
Now, Chris, I got a fan question here when we're talking about the Fozzy side of stuff. Now, back, I think it was almost 7 years ago, you guys released an ABBA cover, which was quite popular. And I actually didn't even know this. I found out, I learned a little bit about Fozzy yesterday. Any chance of future ABBA covers or covers of any sorts that may make their way onto an album, or just onto the
I mean,
YouTube?
I think when you do something like a cover of an ABBA song, it comes out of nowhere. So to do another cover of an ABBA song would be like Quiet Riot when they did 2 Slade songs instead of just one. I'll say this though, the new record has a cover on it that is out of left field as ABBA is, and it fits the same mold. It's not like you go looking like, okay, let's find a band to cover that no one would expect. It's more of the song and the vibe. I think SOS that we did, the ABBA song, it's just a very heavy kind of dark song. It's got some really cool little wicked riffs in it, and it just really kind of fit. I think that's one of the reasons why I did so well. And if you look at the covers that really do well, from Manson doing Sweet Dreams to Five Finger doing what's the Bad Company that they did? Is it the Bad Company, right?
Bad Company. Yeah.
I mean, you don't expect the bands to do those, and when you hear them, you're like, these songs really fit this band. So as much as we'd love to do Iron Maiden covers, and we have, that's a little bit more like, of course they do an Iron Maiden cover, but you want to try and find, if you want to do a cover in the first place, find a band that kind of nobody would really expect, that encapsulates kind of what your band sounds like. And that's what we did on the new record as well.
So you can confirm it's Katy Perry's Fireworks then?
It's Christina Aguilera, Genie in a Bottle.
Yes.
It's funny, a few years ago, there was a version of Genie in a Bottle that was somehow somebody named Fozzy was on. And for years we love your cover of Genie in a Bottle. And I was like, I don't even know that song. Are you sure it was us? Oh yeah, it says Fozzy. So somebody else had done that. So it will not be either one of those bands for sure.
All right,
All right.
so the Save the World tour kicks off September 2nd. I know you guys did some shows in the past couple of years, but how does it feel just kind of get back on the road again and just do a full-on tour?
Well, it feels great because, I mean, this tour has been postponed, I think, 4 separate times, which was kind of a drag, but that's, like you mentioned, it's just the way of the world. And none of the gigs were canceled, just postponed because nobody wanted to get refunds. Like, we've had a show in Pittsburgh, for example, that sold out, I think, in March of 2020. And those people just held on to their tickets. So, and we had to reconfigure it a little bit because some venues closed, which was a drag. When the tour was kind of rebooked, some states still weren't having concerts, which was a drag. So we kind of did the best we could to still put together a great run, and obviously Savannah being one of the shows on the tour. So we're excited about it. Yeah, absolutely. Just to go out and just because you can do 1 or 2 shows, and I think we did 3 earlier this year or something along those lines. And it usually takes 3 or 4 shows to get into the groove. You know what I mean? To get locked in, to get your band tight again. So we would be doing these shows, and right on the last show, we'd be like, hey, we're ready to go. And then you're off for another 3 months or whatever. So I think we're really looking forward to it. We love playing live. We love the whole experience of it. And I think that's kind of where we're at our best, is as a live band, at least from an entertainment standpoint and from just a fun rock and roll standpoint. I think obviously people need that. And, I know there's gigs canceling and some people are still kind of tentative, but I went to Guns N' Roses the other night in Las Vegas. Actually, I went to Guns N' Roses on Friday, an Elvis tribute on Saturday,
Nice.
and Morrissey on Sunday. And it was like small, medium, and large, and all 3 gigs were packed. So people are ready to rock, and we're excited to go out and do that for sure.
Now, Chris, you have your Rock and Wrestling Rager coming up here in about a month and a half. Obviously, your 3rd one. They've sold out every time. We've heard amazing things. We've seen video. You've done AEW Live, I think, on one of them. So when it comes to these cruise lines and jumping out into the water, I'm guessing at some point you get into that little gray area where there's no longer laws that apply to you. So one, what's the best law that you technically have broken out on the sea? Or is there a future law? Or is there a law that you'd like to break in the future, maybe out on the waters, that you could be like, you know what, I did shoot a guy and it was awesome.
Well, I mean, you don't need to be at sea to break a law, that's for sure. I mean, especially now, you go on an airplane, and if you have a cup of coffee and you don't put a mask up after every sip, you get in trouble for that. So
to your seat.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think that the coolest thing about the cruise is that we're actually getting out and doing it again. Because once again, this is a cruise that sold out about 2 weeks after we put it on sale. Then we had to postpone it. So then you got to put all the tickets back on sale again. And then it sold out again. So it's like, once again, like I said, people are just looking to have some fun and kind of embrace life. And I think that's one of the cool things about it. So, I mean, like I said, are we breaking any laws technically? No. I think, once again, there's still people that are a little bit tentative about doing anything. So to them, we're probably deserve a slap on the wrist, but I don't think that way. I never have. During the whole pandemic, I still tried to stay as creative as possible and still create new content to keep people entertained, because that's what I do best. And the Jericho cruise is just another example of that. I mean, we always have so much fun on it, because whether you're a wrestling fan or a rock and roll fan or a comedy fan, I mean, I try and put so much stuff into the cruise that you really can't see it all. Like, oh man, I would have loved to have gone to 2 of these shows, but this was going on, that was going on, this was going on. And I got that from the Kiss cruise. There was just so much to do that I wanted to emulate that. And that's kind of what I do on my cruise. So you really have a great time no matter what. Like, I think there's a lot of people that bring their wives or husbands, like, he doesn't even like wrestling, but he's having such a great time. And that's what I want. It's
right.
Rock and wrestling, but it's a little bit of everything. It's just a party. And that's the best part about it.
Now, of course, you use your song Judas for your entrance at AEW. It's turned into an event of its own at the show, a highlight, I think, for a lot of fans. They sing you in. It's awesome to watch every time. Now, for you, as the wrestler and the rock star, what's cooler? Them singing you into the ring, or you at a show and then them singing along with you up on stage?
I mean, it's pretty much 6 of one, half dozen of another. You know what I mean? Like it's always cool when people know the words to your song, when they're singing your song, you know. And I remember that when I was in high school. I remember we played a battle of the bands at a teenage nightclub they used to have back in the day, and we played a couple songs, and some girls at our school had heard the song and were singing along to our words, and you never forget that. I mean, that's a pretty cool moment. So obviously at a Fozzy gig, there's a few other songs that people know the words to.
Yeah.
But for Judas at the show, I mean, the other week in Houston, we had no music at all. We just had people singing it right from the moment I came out, like kind of an a cappella version. And that was amazing. It was like one of the coolest moments ever, just to see like how much people are into the song and how much they care about the story that we were telling. And it's one of the reasons, like when I left WWE and Break the Walls Down was the theme song that I had. And it's like, well, how do you replace a song like that that's very much, you know, connected with Chris Jericho in so many ways? I said, well, the only way to do that, it would be one of my songs, you know, one of our songs, one of Fozzy's songs. And that's kind of what I started doing. And I used it in Japan, and then it kind of got some steam. And then I said, well, I have to try and use it here. And now I can't imagine coming to the ring to any other song, you know. And Judas as a song in the Fozzy set, we used to open the show with it. You can't do that anymore. Yeah. It's too big of a song. It's too big of a song. So it's now later on at the end. We're still kind of, once again, that's what you're saying too, Gabe, about putting together a tour. You know, now that we're actually on tour and doing 15, 20, 30 gigs in a row, you can start to mess with the set list and find out exactly where everything goes. Because right now you're still kind of guessing. This should probably go here. And then you do, and it's like, they didn't get a better reaction. Let's move it to there. Because that helps a lot too. Sometimes you'll play a song. If we play Judas and then play something after, it hurts the song that we play after. You got to flip flop it and change it and move it. So it's like a big Tetris, a rock and roll Tetris game. And the only way to really figure it out is just by repetition.
Yeah. Well, Chris, you got obviously a big match in front of you this coming Sunday, All Out in Chicago. This thing is sold out. It's going to be great in between you and MJF. But I think right, according to what public knowledge is your contract's about done. I think you actually stunned the wrestling world January 2019 when you decided to stroll out, you know, in front of everyone, join AEW. But now that you're looking at possibly the end of your wrestling career, possibly the end of your time in AEW, what does your time with AEW mean to you? These last 3 years, you started a brand new company going against, you know, the place where everyone knows that wrestling was at. They didn't have any competitors. They're a monopoly upon themselves. I mean, how do you look at your time in AEW? What does it mean?
I think just taking the chance to come to AEW in the first place. There was no guarantees when we first showed up, you know, and there's more and more guys coming into the company now, which is great, but there's no risk to come to AEW now. Now you can just come and reap the rewards and all that sort of thing. But when we first started, it was almost like the rebel forces going up against the evil empire. And, you know, can you destroy the Death Star and survive, or will you get blown into smithereens? And I think the fact that we're able to make the company very successful very quickly right out of the gate was a huge plus and a huge feather in all of our caps. So that means a lot, because it was a risk to come to AEW. But it's a risk that I was willing to take and I wanted to take, knowing like if this works, this is just going to add to my legacy. If it doesn't work, well, at least we tried. And if you don't try it, you'll never know. And not only did it work, 3 months after we started, we had, you know, a new TV contract worth hundreds of millions of dollars, which we did not have at first. So I think every step of the way, it's been a really cool process to see how we were able to build this company and how we were able to grow it into the coolest and hottest wrestling company in the world today. So I take great pride in being a factor in all that.
You've worked with a lot of the younger talent with your time in AEW, which I think's awesome. A lot with MJF, the whole Labors of Jericho has been great to watch. Is there any talent on the younger side that you haven't worked with yet that you'd still like the opportunity to?
I mean, you know, it all depends on your story, but I think right from the start, I mean, I worked with Darby. I think in week 3, we realized right out of the gate that this guy's going to be something now. He's not only something, he's a huge rating draw. Whenever Darby's on last, he draws huge numbers. I mean, bringing Moxley into the company and doing the whole thing that we did with him and losing the title to him right before the pandemic. I mean, that's, you know, he's a much bigger star now than he was when he first came into AEW. I take pride in that as well. Jungle Boy is another guy that we thought about right out of the gate. You know, I worked with Private Party, Isaiah Cassidy. We had a great singles match. Orange Cassidy, I did 14 weeks with him last year. The only drag was there was no people, but we still had to keep the lights on to the millions of people that were watching at home. And we did great pay-per-view numbers with him. Inner Circle, all those guys, the Pinnacle, all those guys working together with them. So it really has been cool to kind of see how we were able to you know, move everybody up the ladder. Cody Rhodes, much bigger star now than he was before we started working together. So I would love to work with Miro. I'd love to work with Malachi Black. I'd love to work with, you know, there's a lot of guys out there that you see coming into our company where you're like, okay, these guys all have it. All they need is great opponents to work with. And that's what we're going to do. So it's been a lot of fun. You know, there's a lot of big matches that I could have. Yeah. And I'm sure we'll get to all of them over the course of time. If things work out, you know, contractually and all that sort of thing.
So this Sunday, once again, you're going to be AEW's All Out in Chicago. People can watch it on Bleacher Report Live, pay-per-view on Sunday. This MJF thing, man, I mean, you guys have been beating the piss out of each other for months and almost years now. I mean, like, but with the stipulation of having your wrestling career on the line, I mean, obviously, it's something to look at. I mean, it's definitely a huge draw to the pay-per-view. So how do you prepare yourself? How do you look at something like this and like mentally get yourself ready? Because I'm guessing you guys are going to go, I mean, no pun intended, all out on each other this Sunday.
Well, I mean, we pretty much have. I mean, it's the cool thing about this whole story is it's been literally a year. I think we started September 9th of 2020, and, you know, we're going to end it September 5th. 2021, one way or another. So I think that type of long-term storytelling is very rare. I also think it's not easy to do, and I think that we've really done it properly. I don't think anybody realizes we've been doing it for that long, for almost a year, or for a year. Like I said, 4 days short. And we knew we had a long-term story. We didn't know how long it was going to be. And I think a few months ago, we were talking about ending it, but I was like, we can't end this before we go back on the road in front of people. This story is too good. And this chemistry and this battle that MJF and I have has been too deep to just not do it in front of crowds. So we were able to kind of figure out a way to make it work, to go all the way to All Out. And I'm glad we did, because we've had an extra 6, 7, 8 weeks of these reactions from the people, which is what it's all about. We didn't have that for, you know, almost a year, and it was a drag. But like I mentioned earlier, the Orange Cassidy is like, I would have loved to have done that in front of people. And with MJF, it's like, I'm not going to, if we're this close, we can easily figure out a way to extend it for another 8 weeks or so we can do all of this in front of crowds. Right. So now that we've done that, yeah, I mean, it's going to be a great finish to a great story. And I think people are very invested and interested in it. Obviously, because, you know, like you said, the stakes, if I lose, I don't wrestle again. And everyone knows in AEW, we stick to our stipulations. Right. We don't just, we don't throw around those ideas very lightly. Yeah. So if it happens and I lose, I won't wrestle again. That's something that I promise, you know, just like Cody said he would never work for the world title again if he didn't beat me. And that's 2 years ago, and he hasn't. So I think you can trust us that we don't, if we say it, we mean it. So there's a lot at stake.
All right. So before we let you go, I do notice you've got some Rush memorabilia behind you. I'm a huge Rush fan. Marshall, give me crap for it. Huge Rush fan. What's your favorite Rush song?
It's hard to say. I love all the eras of Rush. I'm a big 80s Rush fan, which a lot of people like, how can you be an 80s Rush fan? It's like, how could you not? Like, that was my introduction to the band. Moving Pictures. Me too. And that's the same way. That's why I'm an 80s Kiss fan. I'm an 80s, you know, Van Halen fan. Like, that's how I got introduced. So favorite Rush song. I mean, I still always love Working Man. Yeah. I love, if you want to go a little bit later, Far Cry from Snakes and Arrows is one of my favorites. Okay. If you want to go from kind of the classic era, Anthem, Red Barchetta,
Yeah.
I mean, you name it. Tom Sawyer is one of those ones that if it's their biggest hit, like, Enter Sandman or You Shook Me All Night Long, but it still gets me every time. So I'd even throw Tom Sawyer in there, which might not be cool to say because it's not obscure enough.
Yeah.
But another one I really love too is Time Stands Still. That one
is
is
such a good song.
Great song that people kind of forget about. So, dude, there's so many. There's so many. How about you?
Chris, you mentioned Kiss there real quickly. You actually formed the Kiss cover band, Quarantine. I think it's the
Quarantine.
Oh, with a K. I'm way off, obviously.
Jeez Louise.
I know. So, Chris, any chance
it's the Kiss cover band called Curie Liaison. It's a Kiss cover band with a Mr.
Stoley twist. Yeah, I never saw that coming.
What were you going to say?
Are you getting back? Are you going to get back with the guys? We're getting the band back together?
Yeah. We're actually, if you see behind me the billboard there, we actually had a number 25 hit with No from the Crazy Nights record, which is hilarious because it's the biggest charting single from the Crazy Nights album, which came out like in 1987. Our song did higher than any of theirs did. So we want to do another one. We're actually working on one of them right now. We're going to do a couple gigs. We're actually going to do a gig on the Jericho cruise. So we had fun with it. We put it together. We talked about this earlier, being creative during the pandemic. That band became a thing solely because of the pandemic. And we really enjoyed it. We loved it. We got some steam from it. Our drummer put it all together. It was his idea. And he's also the drummer for Luke Bryan, which is a stadium level country act. So when he's finished playing stadiums, he can come slum it with Quarantine. And he probably has even more fun playing with Quarantine than he does with Luke Bryan. So we really enjoyed it. We had a lot of fun with it. And we are going to probably put out a new single, I would say probably sometime in October or November, something like that.
Oh, very
Constantly
cool.
Keeping busy, man. Constantly keeping busy. All right, so a couple things. Of course, All Out is going down on Sunday on pay-per-view. And then you got Fozzy in town in Savannah, Victory North Savannah, on Friday, October 8th. You get tickets for that at victorynorthsavannah.com. Marshall, anything else before we get out of here?
Chris, thanks for your time, man. We're rooting for you this Sunday. Kick his ass.
Appreciate it, man. And either way, I'll see you guys in Savannah, the home of one of the all-time worst Fozzy gigs. And the reason for that is somehow we ended up being on a bill where we opened for the Murder Junkies. The Murder Junkies are Gigi Allen's band. Of course, Gigi Allen is not with us anymore, but his band continues to tour on. So it was skinhead Nazi punks combined with Fozzy fans.
When was this?
Gosh, it was a long time. It was about 2004, 2005.
Okay, that's before we were here. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
When we come to town, I should come do your show in studio, and I'll tell the whole story about Fozzy versus the Murder Junkies.
Love it.
Love it. Yeah.
All right, Chris. Well, thank you so much, man. Appreciate it. Can't wait to see you guys in October.
Sounds great, guys. We'll see you soon. Thank you.
Thanks, man.
Thanks, Chris.
Hey, guys. It's Kotter and Marshall from Rock 106.1. Thank you so much for watching our stupidity online.
Daily. We appreciate it. So make sure that you like and comment and subscribe. It's down there somewhere. We're not exactly for sure. We do appreciate it. And of course, more content always coming soon.